Welcome in once again, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the R&D Sports Report. My name's Dishmond. As always, I'm joined here by Rylee. Rylee, how we doing this evening?
Pretty good, man. How are you?
Oh, it's that time for the Winter Olympics, so always something to watch on TV. It's also a Valentine's evening here, and obviously we didn't have too much to do this evening to be able to sit down and record this podcast, but when you work all day, and then for me went out to dinner real quick with my wife, and then we come and sit down and record this. Thankfully she's understanding enough to give us this time to be able to record this. So big shout out to her. But first off, on a little bit more of a somber note, starting off, we want to start off this episode by giving our thoughts and prayers to the school shooting that happened today down in Florida. Unfortunately, this is just becoming too common of an incident here in the U.S., and it's something that's sad every time you hear about it. And it seems to be happening way too frequently, even in any capacity, whether it's always just from one person maybe being injured all the way up to multiple deaths. Any of it's just too much and sad to have to deal with, and for any parent to have to deal with anything of that magnitude on either side is just sad, and we just want to say that we give our thoughts and prayers to those families affected today. But kind of turning to a different note, and to continue just talking here. As I said, we're recording tonight here on Valentine's Day. Just happened to fall on the schedule of when we normally sit down to record these podcasts, but sometimes you got to sacrifice to be able to keep producing the content. We discussed about maybe pushing it back a day, but we felt like we wanted to really keep on our schedule here and go ahead and record tonight. So we are going to kind of start off this evening, kind of picking up right where we left off a little bit last week, and where we talked about most of last week's episode is after the NBA trade deadline. And, the new look Cavs, so to speak, they are now 2-0. I didn't catch the whole game last night, which would have been Tuesday night. I caught a little bit of it. Then watched a few of the little highlights here and there. But I think, Rylee, one of the big things is that when you watch this new look Cavs, you see just such a different energy with the team. But there was a play last night. I forget who shot it first. But Larry Nance Jr. goes in, and he swats the rebound back out, and Jordan Clarkson is right there on the receiving end, hits a three, and then he does this three celebration, and where he makes the little three and goes down toward the ground. And he and J.R. Smith kind of bumped fist/wrist with one another there. And it just, they seem almost like a completely different team, don't they? Just with so really much energy.
Yeah, I mean, they really do.
I mean, I know they are, for the most part, for all intents and purposes, they are pretty much a completely new team. But it's just miraculous and astonishing how much they seem to have changed just in these two games that they played. Now, once again, try not to get too overhyped about it, them being just 2-0. But it's a big change and something that I think will only grow stronger possibly as it goes. Now, unfortunately, I think it's still the Warriors' title to lose.
Yeah.
But, I think at the same time, with this energy, it might make it a little bit closer than some might think. You just never know. But I think this might have been the last game. They might have one more game. I know they this weekend we get ready to go into the All-Star season. We get ready to go into the All-Star game. And honestly, when I think of All-Star weekend and all that, I think of the stuff like the dunk contest.
Right.
And I don't know if you happen to see this video. It was something when I was scrolling through earlier that I see Dwight Howard on the baseline, right? Did you didn't see this video yet, did you?
No, I did not.
So he's on the baseline, right? And he spins toward the baseline. It's wide open. He goes for the dunk, and he gets stuffed by the rim.
Wow.
Like
that's
Dwight Howard.
embarrassing.
Well, and it was one of those things, like, I couldn't tell if he slipped or, maybe he lost a little bit of them hops he had.
Well, I mean, he's Dwight Howard. He's, what is he, like 7 foot?
Right, yeah. But, and he, years ago jumped up with the Superman cape on, and, I guess even Superman ages just a little bit. But, for me, All-Star Weekend isn't a huge deal. Like it's not one of those things for me, like, where I sit down and I watch everything.
True.
I don't sit down and watch the celebrity All-Star game.
I think as a younger person, I enjoy the one that's I think my favorite would have to be the dunk contest, definitely. But I like.
Well, I do like the dunk contest. I think it's kind of lost some maybe luster, I guess you could say. It just doesn't seem as exciting as it used to. Now I think
True.
I think it's starting to come back, but
it was kind of dead.
It did hit that dead period. It did, but with Victor Oladipo, and I think Donovan Mitchell's now in it, replacing I think for Aaron Gordon or something like that.
Yeah.
You've got is it Smith Jr. from Dallas?
I think so.
I think that's his name.
Was it the guy that won last year? I think it was. It was either him or someone. I can't remember the dude off the bench.
No, that guy's from Phoenix, I think. But I can't remember all the names. Just going from memory here, but I do like the dunk contest and the 3-point contest, or other than the All-Star game, are stuff I might watch it, but it's not something I'm gonna like make time to sit down and make sure I'm watching it.
I think like the 3-point contest. I don't know what I don't think they've announced the participants yet, but being a younger guy, I enjoy those little things like the dunk contest, the 3-point shoot. Oh my gosh, 3-point. What is it called? 3-point shot contest. My gosh, I can't speak tonight.
Shooting contest.
Yeah, I can't speak tonight.
I mean, they just call it 3-point contest.
Either way,
and
I love those. Like, I love to make time for it.
So here's for the 3-point contest. You have Devin Booker, Wayne Ellington, Paul George, Bradley Beal, Klay Thompson, Tobias Harris, Kyle Lowry, and Eric Gordon are your contestants.
Those are
your participants.
Those are pretty good contestants, to be honest with you.
And I think that might have been kind of what the All-Star weekend activities might have been lacking a little bit, in the past. Not maybe last year, but
like picking participants.
Well, willing participants,
right?
Because these guys have to be willing to do this stuff.
True.
But you have to also, some of them, that may be the only thing they participate in. on All-Star Weekend, and they don't want to just do that, so they won't do it. Or, sometimes it is an injury issue. For Aaron Gordon, right, you have him being injured, so he's not in the dunk contest. But for the dunk contest, you have Victor Oladipo, Larry Nance Jr., Dennis Smith of the Mavericks, and Donovan Mitchell of the Jazz. Now, have you seen the video of Victor Oladipo on a breakaway and does like a 360, I think, after somebody passed it to him?
I think I did see that.
And it was like, getting ready for the dunk contest. And, we've seen Larry Nance with some nasty putbacks and even some nasty dunks.
Oh, yeah.
Which is funny now because he'll be representing the Cavs instead of the Lakers this time. But it's just, I don't know. For me, I don't make it a priority.
No.
But, I know there are some people who do.
Right.
And some people listening might, that might be their priority. But it's one of those things that it's
like mini games in the NBA. Like, it really is. Like,
well, it kind of, it's supposed to be one of those things, because, this is on Saturday night, and, it'll start at 8, starts off with the skills challenge, then the 3-point, and then you finish it with the slam dunk competition. But, what I'm also laughing at is that all these have names now, right? It's gone so corporate on a lot of this stuff that, it's the Taco Bell Skills Challenge.
Yeah.
It's the JBL 3-point contest.
I think that's
And it's the
dumb.
Verizon Slam Dunk. Like, I get it, the money coming in, but
that's great, but at the same time, it's kind of ridiculous.
Well, it almost at some points, yeah, it does seem like it gets to be too much, and it's just like,
can we just watch NBA without having to see ads constantly?
Well, and it's like, what next? Are you going to tell me it's the Charlotte, toilet paper race or something? Like, the Charmin toilet paper, like, come on now,
NBA.
But for the skills competition, you have in this, right, they have to, like, dribble and pass and then, like, shoot a 3 is, like, the whole thing. And it is kind of interesting sometimes. But, for that one, you really don't have any big names, so to speak. I mean...
True.
You have Spencer Dwindy of the Nets.
Again, who is that?
Well, I was going to say, I have no idea who that is. Joel Embiid from the 76ers, which you almost have to know him, but it's also part of the reason, I think, is because he makes you know him, right?
True.
Al Horford of the Celtics. Know him?
Yeah.
Heard of him? Yeah.
I
Me
think
too.
he's good.
I've never even heard of this person from the Bulls. It's probably because I don't really watch a whole lot of Bulls games, but it's Lauri Markkanen. I probably just butchered that, but
what position does he play? Do you know?
I have no idea. It doesn't tell me position. What I'm looking at is just the participants. What I have pulled up here is just from the NBA's
well,
website.
I mean, there's been a lot of talk about someone on the Bulls. I can't remember who, but there's been a lot of talk about somebody, so that might be him.
Well, it could have been you have Zach LaVine on the Bulls.
I like Zach. I'm just throwing
you got in that Jimmy Butler trade. But then you also have in this Taco Bell skills competition, Buddy Hield from the Kings, Jamal Murray from the Nuggets, Kristaps Porzingis, the unicorn, was supposed to be in it and will not participate, obviously, because of injury. Andre Drummond and Lou Williams, the Clippers. So there are a few names. There are also some names that I don't know most people would know, right? Especially when you're talking just like the casual fan, right?
True.
Which is probably somewhat of the way that you and I fall into is more the casual fan that will catch a game every now and then. but it's not going to make or break us if we miss the game, right?
No.
But those are the events other than the All-Star game that'll be on Saturday night there. But
it's this Saturday.
Yeah, this Saturday, and that's that it gives guys, and that's why I think it's either tonight or tomorrow is the last set of games before the All-Star game, and I obviously I don't have a schedule pulled up in front of me, but the Cavs may have one more game with their new look Cavs, but that's also going to be part of the talk, for NBA All-Star Weekend. It is the, it's going to be, did this change the landscape? How is this going to change? Can they even stand a chance against the Warriors? Now, some people would say this just made them the outright favorite, right? A lot of people were saying that it just made them the favorite in the East now, and that it, I heard a few people that said, "Oh, I think this makes them the outright favorite." And I don't fully agree because the Warriors are still the Warriors, even though the other night, right, and I think it's actually even the other day during practice, Steve Kerr, if you've been following along, and I'm sure you've seen things on social media and whatever else, but right, he's not been happy with the way the Warriors have been playing.
No.
But
I wouldn't either when you got KD, Steph, and Clay.
And I think it somewhat of their energy level, some of their effort.
True.
And I understand all that, but at the same time, it's one of those things. What he did was a little bit risky, right, for his job's sake, because he goes into the game the other night. I think it was Sunday or Monday night. I can't remember which game. But he goes in. Doesn't really coach at all the entire game.
Yeah, he handed it to Iguodala.
Yeah, I was going to say Andre Iguodala, he handed the clipboard to. He didn't coach, and he was trying to prove a point, I think, for them to listen to him and practice that previous day. He also apparently didn't really coach them. Just kind of let them do their thing, which...
That's a little ridiculous, to be honest.
Well,
I get where he's coming from, but still.
Yeah, I mean, I can see where he's coming from. Hey, you got to listen to me. But at the same time, think about the risk he's taking. What happens if they perform well and, they ended up losing that game? But what if they win it, right?
Yeah, I'd be kind of scared.
Then you put the look on you like, I'm sorry, why are we paying you?
Right.
Right? What are we paying you for if these dudes can go out here and win it by themselves without a coach, actually calling something or, setting up a play for him or whatever?
Iguodala next coach? I'm just
maybe right, player, coach, whatever,
What if he was a coach and a player at the same time? So he would coach, but then sub in. That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, he'd call his own number. Andre, oh hey, that's me. Let's get in the game here. Yeah, exactly.
That'd be difficult, but that'd be kind of cool.
But I just think, isn't it kind of risky though for for him to do that? But I think somewhat of the luster here with All-Star Weekend has worn off. And I think some of it is in part to teams like the Warriors, where it's almost like they go out with an all-star team, right? Exactly. They got, 4 guys in the all-star game?
Yeah.
Kind of their big 4, so to speak. Draymond, KD, Steph, and Clay, right? They all get into the all-star game, and it's like, man, why do I need to watch the all-star game when I could just watch them play most of the time, And so I think that's probably somewhat has hurt the luster of the all-star game.
I can agree.
But I think the quality of the All-Star game has hurt it, and other things, the other events have hurt it. But I do think for Steve Kerr, right, that is a big risk.
I would agree.
You would assume, especially guys like KD, Steph, Clay, and even Draymond, right? They've all been in the league long enough to say that this is enough, right?
Well, I kind of viewed Steve Kerr's actions as cocky. Like, does that make sense? Like, kind of found it as like, I have the greatest team.
You need me. Is that what you're saying? Like, you have to have, like, yeah.
Well, not only that, but I mean, well, I don't really need to coach them if I got 4 All-Stars on my team. What's the point?
Well, I think he was trying to prove a point to them of, hey, like, I get it. You all are, I've got 4 All-Stars, and you all are great players, and, we've won titles. But you still gotta listen to me, right? You can't be playing lazy and this and that. And I think that's what he was trying to do, but it really could have backfired on him.
Oh, it really could. There were so many risks. He got really lucky, to be honest.
Well, yeah, and it's one of those things like if they pull it out by 1 point or whatever, is it a big deal? I think I lean towards it kind of is.
Yeah,
and something that could have been really risky.
I don't think anybody else has done that before, though.
Well, I've never seen, Popovich go out and say, hey, I'm not coaching this game.
I mean, LeBron has, kind of.
We've seen LeBron, before, kind of yell at players. Now, that was the old Cavs, Rylee. That was the old Cavs. We are into the new Cavs era, right? But
true. But at the same time, I mean, even now, you still see LeBron either cheering them on or sort of coaching them.
Well,
so to
and
speak.
there is obviously a difference between trying to coach them up while you're on the court with them, and
actually coaching
and the coach deserting you, so to speak, for the game.
Did he go back to the locker room or did he sit?
No,
down?
He was there. He just didn't really do anything. Timeouts. He didn't go into the huddles and.
Wow, is that even legal?
Yeah, it's legal. I mean, he's the head coach. He was on the bench, so that's probably why he was there. He should have been, but.
Wow, that's ridiculous.
But, I think it was all a point-proving type thing. But I just, going into the All-Star, now I am somewhat intrigued. And the All-Star game is something more that, I make kind of more of a purpose to make sure I'm watching it.
Right.
Just because, it's the All-Star game. It's always fun. Don't tune in if you're looking for a defensive battle, because that's just not going to happen.
No.
Right? These guys aren't trying to go out there and hurt themselves. They're kind of going out there and having fun.
Exactly. It's not a real game.
And I can't say I blame them.
No.
But, it all kicks off on Friday night. You have the celebrity game, which is
sort of fun.
Well, it is sort of fun because you usually get a few older players. You get some WNBA players in there, and you get some celebrities, and some of them can flat out ball, and you don't realize it. But
wouldn't it be funny, LeVar Ball like that?
Oh my goodness, no! Let's just not because then we'll have to hear him some more. But you've got, and it is a lot. In this weekend, you've got the All-Star Celebrity Game. You've got, once again, another corporate thing here. The Mountain Dew Kickstart Rising Stars Game, which I've watched it before, and Friday night 9 p.m. or thereafter. If I'm free, I might sit down and watch a little bit of it. But it's not something I'm gonna be attentive to.
Yeah.
But, it is nice to see the younger players in the league, playing in there and kind of give you the ability to see some names that maybe you haven't really heard or ones that are kind of quiet. I do like how they set it up, the U.S. versus the world team. It does make it nice.
Yeah. I feel like I feel that these All-Star Weekend, I feel like it kind of gives those no names a boost and kind of, oh wow, this dude's good. I should probably tune into him.
Well, especially for the Rising Stars, and I think that's what they are trying to do here with the Rising Stars game, is to give you people that you might not have really heard of, but are starting to make a name for themselves. You've got Bogdanovich of the
Wow.
Kings this is the world team. Dylan Brooks, Joel Embiid, Buddy Hield. There's that Lauri Markkanen, Jamal Murray, Frank Nidalinka. My goodness, I'm butchering probably some of these names. Domantas Sabonis, Dario Saric, and Ben Simmons on the world team.
Like Olympic wise? No, not
No.
Olympic.
Well, like Ben Simmons is from Australia.
Okay.
And things like Buddy Hield is from Haiti, I think. So these, Jamal Murray's from Canada, so they're all kind of there around.
Gotcha.
Some European players and all that. So for the U.S. team, originally you had Lonzo Ball and Malcolm Brogdon. Both are out with injury. So the rest of them are Jaylen Brown, John Collins, Chris Dunn, Brandon Ingram, Kyle Kuzma, Donovan Mitchell, Dennis Smith Jr., Jason Tatum, Taurean Prince, and De'Aaron Fox. Some of these names are a little bit of the bigger names. Originally like Lonzo Ball, Malcolm Brogdon, Brandon Ingram, Chris Dunn, Jaylen Brown, right? Some we do know. But, they're age-wise, it kind of helps them to still be seen a little bit more. They are the younger talent. They are, for lack of a better term, is they are the future of the NBA. And so with this, it's their first and second year players. So right, they're still pretty fresh in their NBA careers. Maybe next year Jason Tatum, maybe he can move up into
maybe
the All-Star game. Maybe a Donovan Mitchell, right, can move up. Both being rookies. A Ben Simmons, rookie. So, but then again, they could be here, and so it helps, to have these first and second year players in this All-Star game, and I think it just gives another outlet to showcase the talent that the NBA has.
I would agree.
And that's one of those. I'm not going to make a priority to watch it, right?
Right.
But if I catch it on, I'll sit down and watch it. It's an entertaining game, so.
Right.
But then Saturday is all the other activities. Sunday, you have obviously the All-Star game, but you also have the NBA G League International Challenge presented by Kokomo Tire. So I guess the NBA G League All-Star game, I'll be honest, the G League is not something I pay attention to.
No, why would you? They're not like.
Well, it's one of those things like.
I mean, again, popular, like, boost in popularity, but at the same time, come on now, it's the G League.
Well, and I think, the G League is still kind of newer, and, you have the issue with some of the people you have no idea who they are that are playing. They were good college players, but you never heard of them because maybe they never made it into the NCAA tournament. Maybe they did, and they just weren't like the best player on their team. But with college basketball being so popular and having like the NCAA tournament and all that, I think it makes it hard for the G League. I think what also makes it hard is that every NBA team does not have their own team, right? There's not a specific G League team for each NBA team, and that's something that I've heard the NBA commissioner Adam Silver talk about before and recently, right? That he wants and they're working on getting every NBA team a G League team. That way they kind of have the minor leagues.
Right.
But, I think it would work better if it were maybe, more like the baseball setup. Where,
True.
well, and you don't draft a guy in baseball, even if he's played, his 3 years of college. Even if he comes straight out of high school. However, if he's out of high school or he's been for 3 years in college at least. Hey, even if he's been a senior in college in baseball, right? You don't see him go straight from college or even high school to all of a sudden, oh, he's in the major leagues,
Right.
It takes 2 to 3 years. Now, granted, there are a lot more players when it comes to Major League Baseball and a lot more slots to fill in the farm system. But I think that's probably what has hurt the NBA a little bit is that they haven't necessarily put those bigger names down there to develop, right? It used to be the developmental league. That's what it used to be called until Gatorade, once again, this corporatization bought the rights for it. Now it's the G League.
Wow.
But, it's just one of those things that when you think about it, it's kind of like, hey, don't you think that would make almost a little bit more sense? Send them down there and let them, for a half season or a year. I feel like the NBA product would even be better than that. I would agree. But at the same time, I think you don't get a better product in the G League until you start paying some of those guys more money, right?
True.
And I'm not calling for them to make millions of dollars or anything.
No.
But some of these, even if we cross into Major League Baseball, right? If you're in the minor leagues, that's not where the money is.
No.
You're not set out in life to go, oh, I just want to go to minor league baseball for all my life, right? Because a lot of those guys, they only get paid during the season. That's how it is for most professional sports. You get paid during the season. You get paid while we're playing. But they don't get almost paid enough to not work that other part, right?
Well,
I was going to say, I've seen reports of even guys in AAA baseball that go work construction in their off season, right? To be able to make more money for their family. And I think that's part of the issue with the G League, and I think they've started fixing it to try and raise the wage, right, the starting wage, because the thought was, hey, why would I want to go and make like 35,000 straight out of high school, which I could do in the G League and be put on buses and, drive around from here to there when I could go to college, start my education, maybe not necessarily, have all the perks of being paid throughout the year, but I'm getting an education and get a little bit of stipend here and there, right? But also, for those bigger programs, they're flying on chartered planes, right? Their travel's a lot better. Their hotel stays a lot better,
right?
It's
it's
a little bit of an easier, and college basketball, right, has the pulse of the nation a lot of times, right? You have the platform there to be able to show off.
Right.
So it's just one of those things, like the G League has to fix some stuff to be able to compete with like a college basketball. Because right now, right, college basketball is kind of the minor leagues for the NBA.
True.
Right? That's their farm system, so to speak, like in Major League Baseball. And, the G League just kind of has to figure these things out, giving, the guys, instead of, maybe 35,000, giving them 100,000.
Right.
But you've got, to be able to do that, you'd have to show the value to these, like, top flight recruits of why, instead of going to college and getting more exposure, right, I'd go to the G League, where you may not get as much exposure. And it's not necessarily about the exposure from the NBA side, right? Because if you're good enough, scouts will find you, right? People will find you. NBA people will find you.
Oh, yeah, there's no doubt about it.
But, for name recognition, right, a guy like a LeBron James, right, his name is known.
Oh, yeah.
And not only does he make his money playing basketball, but he makes his money in endorsements, right? All the Sprite commercials you see him in, his deal with Nike, right? You see these guys using their name to make extra money, right? And for some of them, and even I think it's even the case for LeBron, right? He makes more money doing the endorsements
than he does
playing basketball, right?
Right.
And so, if I can't make myself a bigger household name in the G League, but I can go to college and maybe I have to sacrifice that $100,000 for a year, but in the end, it's gonna be able to allow me, to make $100 million over my lifetime in endorsements, or whatever, over 5 years in endorsements.
Right.
You'd almost look at taking that route. Wouldn't you?
Yeah. Why wouldn't you? It's like a go big or go home kind of situation.
Well, I think the thought is that, maybe if you're not a college type person, a school person, so to speak, then you go to the G League. But if you're not that kind of person anyway, you can go overseas too. So, the G League's got some things to work out. I've watched some G League basketball, and it is pretty good. But it's just...
I haven't watched a lot of it. I've seen some, but not like a whole lot.
Oh, believe me, I don't sit down and... I'm not sitting down, to watch it the whole time. and oh, this guy's the next big star. I'm watching because I found it. Well, I was flipping through channels, let's be honest, but
got bored.
Yeah, but you don't see guys getting drafted that much out of the G League into the NBA. Which if you go directly from high school to the G League, you could, but you just don't see that.
No, why would you? It's like you're rushing your own plan. Like,
well,
okay, so I'm getting out of high school. G League or go for the NBA. Man, I'm gonna go G League. I just want the money. Like, you might as well go. It's like you wait and you get more reward.
Well, and I think a lot of it does have to do with that exposure factor. To be able to get your name out of there in college, but going to the G League, you could do it, and there's been a few that have done it that way. But I don't know that it'll really ever make a huge difference.
No.
But maybe you get some players that are more adept at going to the G League. But I think you truly have to almost make it like a farm type system, and maybe that's where it works out. With this whole like one and done thing in college basketball. Right? Maybe, okay, you can be drafted out of high school, but you have to take your first year and serve it in the G League or something. Or, maybe that would make it more enticing.
Well, more like...
Well, it would give you a purpose. Like, I could be drafted, go play in the G League, right? And let's say, pick an NBA franchise.
Boston.
All right. So the Celtics, let's say, draft you, right? And you are a top 5 recruit, so to speak, in your recruiting class. Let's say you're number 3 in the class, okay?
Okay.
And Boston says, "Hey, we've got this top 10 pick, right?" Because they probably traded somebody for it years ago and are now reaping it, right?
Yeah.
But let's say I'm Boston. I got this top 10 pick. I'm going to use it on you. You're number 3 in the class in recruiting, and so I'm going to pick you. But my plan here is that for you to go develop yourself a little bit in the G League, instead of you going to college, right, and going that route. So, then you have a situation where what happens if you don't have a good year in the G League?
See, that's more of like a risk that, you have to be willing to take.
Right. And I mean, even some of these kids, right, that go to Major League Baseball from high school, they don't all pan out.
No.
Some even struggle in the minor leagues, and and never make it to the major leagues.
That's why they're not.
And that's the risk that the teams take on you if they do it like that. But let's say you could have that option, right? You could go to the G League, you perform well for the year, and then the next year the NBA brings you in. And then that starts your rookie year in the NBA, right?
Right.
Just like in baseball where they say, you're a rookie when you come into Major League Baseball. You're not a rookie as you're going through the farm system.
Right.
But then, if you don't do that, you have to stay 2 years or whatever in college basketball. Not only do I think that might help the G League a little bit, in the sense that maybe they could get more of these kind of top flight players, right, to come in and help their exposure players. A little bit, right?
Right.
But and those players by no means are terrible in the G League.
No, they're just not as good.
Some of them have the option where they could go overseas and make hundreds of thousands of dollars, each year playing overseas. And that's what some guys choose to do instead of going to the G League. And some choose to go to the G League thinking that is probably their best option, to be able to get back to the NBA or to even get to the NBA at all. But, not only would I think that help the G League in its exposure and maybe its quality of play.
I would agree.
But I think it would also help college basketball in its quality of play, right? And
True.
And I think that's honestly, and we had this discussion, probably a couple episodes ago about, is it better if there's no dominant team, right?
Right.
Right as we sat down to record, you get the alert, Villanova loses again tonight to Providence. Clemson loses to Florida State in overtime. And it's one of those things, I don't know, it's not to say that there's no great teams this year.
No.
Right, because Virginia's lost, 2 games or something like that, I think.
I think so.
All season. And they are a really good team. But I think it's the quality of play in college basketball, right, this year. It's not
as exciting.
Well, it's not as exciting, right? And part of that probably is because, teams like a Duke, a Kentucky, a Kansas, North Carolina, right? They're not the teams we might have thought they were coming into the game. Into the season, I should say.
No, definitely not.
But they, Duke's, freshmen coming in mixed in with their, star returner and Grayson Allen. They don't look as strong as we thought they should.
Oh, no, definitely not.
Right? They still had a pretty good season, but they don't look as strong as what we think they should look. But at the same time, like a kid like Grayson Allen, right? I don't know that he's any better than he was in his freshman year.
That's that I was thinking about that a couple of days ago. It's weird how we went from like really good to like meh.
Well, and I don't know that he even went to, as you said, meh. But I don't know that he really grew anywhere, right? And that's what you think when a player comes back. You go, oh, they are, he's coming back.
He's going to be real good
Well,
this year.
He's coming back for his sophomore year. He's coming back for his junior. He's coming back for his senior year, whatever it might be. And you expect to see that growth and that player progression. And I don't feel like we've seen that from Grayson Allen.
No.
Now, maybe his growth and his, his player development is tripping people less. But I don't know skill-wise if you've really seen the growth. But it also kind of begs the question, right? We've seen more teams and more coaches get involved in this one-and-done situation. And I think especially after the end of this year, we'll really be able to kind of see. But maybe every coach can't do this, right?
True.
We've seen Coach K have a few that we thought would be one-and-dones, and they get knocked out by, Belmont or whatever in the second round of the NCAA tournament.
And then they decide to stay. So, I mean, it's kind of like random, if so to speak.
Well, I mean, I know the tournament is random, from game to game, but at the same time, like, maybe that's just not Coach K's forte, right?
True.
Maybe he just needs to, stick to those players that fit more of a system. A guy like Rick Pitino, which I know he's not coaching, right now, but like he got players, right, that fit his system.
Yeah.
That would fit for him, unlike a guy like John Calipari who will go after, as he says, we want the best of the best, right? He goes after those and just puts his team together however it can be. Coach K, up until really Jeff Capel coming back to Duke, didn't really get a whole lot of these one-and-done players. And in truth, we've never really seen a lot from him out of those one-and-done players. But, it may be one of those things that not every team can do it. And everybody says, well, you need to have a fresh, some good freshmen with these experienced. I don't think it works quite like that. I think you do have to have some experience, but I don't think you you can't win with all 5 freshmen, right?
True.
Because look at the Fab Five, right? Guys like Jalen Rose, they would have been good, but where they got pushed above is having a guy like a Chris Webber.
Right.
You can't, in my opinion, go and win with just 5 freshmen, right?
Right.
You can go and win with, 3 freshmen and 2 superstar freshmen. Or, 4 and 1 super. I think you have to really have that superstar in the making, or even show the potential to be a superstar.
And I see where you're coming from, but I feel like a lot of the way the coaches are looking, I feel like all they want is 5 stars right now. 4 and 5 stars. If you're not 4 and 5 star, you're screwed. You're not going anywhere.
That's
just my opinion.
Well, no, but that's not quite where I was going with it. More talking of, right, you can win with just a bunch of 5 stars.
Right, and I understand where you're coming from.
And you can do it, but it depends on the type of player that you're getting in a 5-star.
Right.
Right, all these recruiting services, they're making a guess. Nobody would have known that a Greg Oden would go and have all these knee problems.
No.
And, thought to be a ginormous bust when, in fact, it was injuries that hurt him. It wasn't his play that hurt him when he got to the NBA level. It was injuries.
Right.
For another guy like a Sam Bowie, right? Thought to be one of the biggest busts in NBA draft history because he got drafted in front of Michael Jordan.
Wow.
The guy was plagued with injuries. He's plagued with injuries when he was at Kentucky, and then he had some injuries in the pros, but he also had a good long career in the pros. But because, and for him, right, having Michael Jordan picked right after you is going to hurt.
Oh yeah,
I think
a slap in the face.
Well, and I think for Greg Oden, I think it was him 1, Kevin Durant 2. I think is how it went. I think because it was I think it was Portland Trailblazers who had Greg Oden, took him first, and then at the time the Seattle Supersonics took Kevin Durant at number 2.
Yeah.
But, I think that's where we, when getting back to kind of the recruiting thing, that's where we see teams like a Villanova, a Xavier come up because, teams like a Kentucky, a Duke, and all that going after these big name players, these other guys that might take a year or 2 to kind of find their groove are at the Villanovas and the Xaviers and that.
Exactly.
And I think if you take those and you sprinkle them in with freshmen, that would be unstoppable. And for a guy like, Coach Cal, right, ideally, yeah, you get a couple 2 and 3 year players. But the problem is for him, for Coach K, for anyone who's really trying to go after these one and dones, right? If you come in with a group of people who are thought to be one and done, wouldn't you then also think you are a one and done?
Depends on how well I think I am.
Yeah, but I mean, come on, you're going to okay. So let's say you're going to Kentucky with, let's just say you were going there when John Wall, DeMarcus Cousins, Eric Bledsoe were going in, right? You would think, hey, if Coach Cal is bringing me in, man, I got to be a good player just like these, right?
True.
I'm only here for a year, which is where you get to, and then you get there and you go, okay, well, maybe I'm not as good as these guys, but I thought I was go one and done, and then you start thinking, and then, you know, you start transferring out, and, you know, Duke's ran into that, you know, guys coming in that they thought were, you know, that the guy themselves might have thought they were a one and done, and they're not. Well, you know, guys like Coach K and Coach Cal aren't going to stop recruiting these top flight players, right? So then you're getting recruited over, and next thing you know, you're like, am I ever going to play? And then you transfer out and you go somewhere else and you have success. Right? And then you go, well, these guys were at, you know, why couldn't these guys work at Duke? Why couldn't these guys work at Kentucky? Whatever it might be. But, I think that the NBA of college, you know, college basketball kind of being the farm system for them, I think that's kind of hurt them a little bit in the sense that, you know, these kids come out and they think they are these superstars instead of maybe having time to go and to develop, you know, guys like a Karl Anthony Towns, Kyrie Irving, right? Those guys don't really need another year of college basketball. Would it have helped them? Well, sure, it would have helped everybody.
Well, yeah.
But they don't necessarily, you know, have to have that extra year. Right. But there, you know, there are some guys that need it, and I think.
Well, when you go into the NBA, you got better coaches. Well, rip my voice, but you got better coaches, and you got better players to work yourself around and kind of feed off, you know, how they play and how well they do.
Yeah, the more I thought about it after we had that conversation about, you know, there are no great teams, I think there are maybe great, in quotations, teams this year. You know, Virginia, 2 losses, that's really good on their season.
Oh, yeah.
But I think we've gotten to the point where we're kind of spoiled. You know, there's no blue blood, if you want to call them, big brand school, whatever you want to call them, right up there at the top, big name school at the top of the list. And you know, we look at it and we go, well, you know, is college basketball down, or, you know, what is it? And I think, and you know, I've watched a bunch of games. I know you have too. I think it's more of the play in college basketball, right? It's almost it's just awful for some of it.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
But I think some of it goes back to, you know, these like NBA All-Star weekends.
Right.
Seeing a guy like a Steph Curry just jack up threes all the time, whether it's at All-Star weekend or in his games, and I'm not trying to blame any of this on Steph, but guys like him, guys like Klay Thompson, guys like Kevin Durant, right, that can shoot the lights out, have started to change how these players are playing.
Right, they got that boost that, you know.
Well, and everybody goes, hey, I want to play like KD. I want to play like Steph.
You know,
right?
And that encourages them to get better and make the NBA.
For some, it encourages to get better, but
yeah,
you know, you've played with other people, right? For others, it just encourages them to shoot more threes.
True.
Even though you may not be able to hit the ocean standing on the shore with a beach ball, you just keep shooting threes because, hey, that's what the cool guys do, right? And I think that's what's more than, you know, these one and dones, you know, that we've heard, you know, they're hurting college basketball. I think it's almost more of outside influences on these young athletes, maybe telling them they're better than they actually are, right, and them not getting the right information because they're not able to listen to who they actually need to listen to.
Exactly.
As we've been recording this, I've been watching this every now and then, this Kentucky-Auburn game. Right? Auburn's got a few older players and all that. Kentucky, as I'm sure you've heard and you hear time and time again, right? They're the youngest team in college basketball.
Yeah, they are.
Well, whoop-de-frickin' do. Right? Their problem, is that they don't have that superstar to almost take over a game. Right. The Fab Five, which I know is before your time, but I'm sure you've seen, the documentaries I think ESPN did a 30 for 30 on them. Chris Webber is the one that put them over the top. He was the superstar for them.
Right.
For Kentucky, they're missing kind of that superstar mentality.
Right. And
I think that also turns into the fact that, we are so tied in today into, the fact that we got all these recruiting services where, as you were talking about earlier, everybody's wanting these 5 stars,
Right.
I don't want no 4-star. Well, sometimes they get it wrong, right? Most people looked at Devin Booker as a player that would be there 1 or 2 years, maybe even 3. Guess how many years he was there?
He was one and done, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was one and done.
He's doing great in the NBA, definitely.
Well, but you look at a guy like Grayson Allen, right? After his freshman and even his sophomore year, some thought, he may come out, right? But then he stayed, and we're like, oh no, what? He stayed? What? Like, he's going to be so much better, and he has almost stayed the same.
Yeah, he's been kind of the same page.
Right. So
it's like he hasn't gotten better at all.
Well, and it gets a whole lot to these players themselves, how much you want to improve yourself, how much you want to work for it. But at the same time, I think for some of them, it's also who I'm surrounding myself with.
Right.
And in a time where, everybody can get a hold on social media, I think that, honestly, not to sound like an old curmudgeon, right, that might be the problem in and of itself, is that you have, all these influences in it and telling, some kids that they're better than they might actually be.
Right, and they get too ahead of themselves.
Well, and they get their own ego, and they think, oh, man, I am the next LeBron James, right?
Right. I'm the best out there. What you got on me?
Right, exactly. But, it's one of those things that, you look forward to All-Star Weekend because you want to see the show that is NBA All-Star Weekend. And, it's just one of those things that we'll see, and something that we won't really get into too much here, but it's something that I just happened to see scrolling through Twitter earlier. Was I forget who even put it out now, but a report that more than 36 schools could have some NCAA violation issues with this whole FBI probe that's still going on.
Oh my gosh.
That we still don't know, and
it's getting annoying now.
Well, it is, because you haven't really heard anything in a while, and it's still lingering.
It's like they're trying to keep everything secret, and it's kind of annoying.
Well, but that's in truth what the FBI does, right? They're not going to tell you what they have until they got you.
Right.
It's not like the NCAA where they're saying, hey, for the NCAA, they're more of a warning type system, right? That, hey, there's trouble ahead. Or, hey, we've got you on some stuff, and we'll let you know here in the next couple of years what we think. The FBI is going to go, is one of those traps that when you finally fall into it, it's, gotcha. They wait until you're caught, so to speak.
Right, fully trapped, yeah.
And to tell you what they got on you. But, it's just, 36 schools or so that have NCAA issues.
That's ridiculous.
That's just in Division I. And from the tweet earlier, you can see that it's not all these little like tiny schools, right? There could be some big names.
Oh yeah.
Who knows? It could have a Kansas in there.
Or Duke.
Well, and it's funny you say that because I was going to say, if you remember, it's been a few weeks ago. One of the guys, he was on, I think, Barstool Sports, talking about it. I forget his name now off the top of my head, but right, he was talking about that Jeff Capel there at Duke, one of the assistants, and this duffel bag. They're in the duffel bag industry, which presumably is talking about money, in duffel bags full. Does that get scooped up in this? Is there anything actually to this?
Well, being a fan of a school, I'd be scared.
Well, and it's one of those things, for somebody like a U of L fan, it might be like, hallelujah, finally somebody else is going to have to maybe hear about this. Or, an Arizona fan is like, oh, hallelujah, like,
right.
Other teams will have to actually hear about this. Other schools will have to actually deal with this. Good. It's not just us. USC, Auburn, has had some issue as I'm watching this game here. Alabama had some kind of issues with Colin Sexton, but,
hope everybody goes down, apparently.
Well, and apparently it might be like the Cavs, right, blowing up their roster and just restarting. Maybe that's what we need to do with Division I college basketball.
Here in 10 years, we're not going to have it in NCAA anymore. It's just going to be gone.
Well, and in truth, there's probably some actual talk that we could actually get into on if we should just disband the NCAA. But it's been a lot of basketball talk this time, but that's the season. Well, and that's the season we're in.
Well,
and trying to stay around the sports that are happening. It is coming up on NBA All-Star Weekend,
which is exciting.
Well, and college basketball is starting to wind down with the regular season, about to get into shortly the conference tournaments, and then you have the big dance, right? Coming in March. But if you want to stay up with all that, you want to keep up with all our opinions of the different things that are happening, especially now, and even other stories as they break it, may not be just specifically basketball, but right now that's kind of the sport that's in, so that's what we're talking about a little more now. If you want to be able to be a part of that, you need to go and hit the subscribe button. That way, when we publish these episodes, that you can get them as soon as that feed updates. And you can do that by subscribing on iTunes, on Stitcher, on Spreaker, on Podbay. It's there. There might be some other outlets, and if there are, hit us up. Let us know on Facebook. Facebook.com / R&D Sports Report. On Twitter, it's at R&D Sports Report. Hit us up on there. Let us know if there's other places that you're listening to this. Go ahead. You can go ahead and like us on the Facebook page, and that way we put out a post every time one of these episodes is out. That way you make sure you get it if you're not subscribed. That way you can go download it. Same thing on Twitter, and every now and then we throw in our few thoughts here and there of some different stories as they break. But make sure you go follow us on there so you can get the latest episodes as they drop each and every week. And hey, while you're there, it's right near the subscribe button, but you can go ahead and click a few stars for us. Let's see. What might be the perfect amount of stars that you go ahead and click while you're right there by that subscribe button?
How about 5 stars?
Well, yeah. You know what? Yeah, go ahead. Because we're worth that 5-star rating, right?
Definitely.
Go ahead and while you're there, you hit the subscribe button so you get all the new episodes downloaded twice a week. Hit the 5-star button and leave us a review while you're there. And that'll do it for another episode of the R&D Sports Report.